guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. It's 6:30. I call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll observe a moment of silence. Thank you. We have a special recognition tonight. I'd like to invite our two summer interns, Rebecca and Sivey, to join me at the podium. I just want to say that it was a wonderful, wonderful summer. Made all the richer and all the more productive at City Hall for having these two women joining us for the summer. Rebecca and Sivey put in good work. They accomplished a lot. I dare say they learned a lot. And we'll take a look at the video to start the rest of the conversation. You ready?
Before coming into City Hall, I couldn't name 4 jobs that the city had. I didn't know any names. I honestly couldn't have even named our council. So it's been really cool to be able to be here and meet everyone and know everybody who works for the city on a personal level, and getting to know really how many people work here and just how much everyone does. And it's really cool to see.
As someone who's always been into politics, I've always seen federal, state level, and Georgia being a swing state. There's a lot of political awareness here, but I don't hear people talking as much about local politics. And before this internship, I was like, okay, that's okay, it's not that big of a deal, but looking back at it now, so much gets done at the local level. Even if it's smaller, it's just as important.
I've learned a lot. I've definitely learned that my experiences with being in a newsroom and doing journalistic programs in high school is very different from doing it in a city setting, because there's just so many different moving components and it's so much bigger. It's on a bigger scale. So you're not just creating content for the high school students, you're creating content for an entire city, and you're making sure everyone is represented, and that when events are going on, you're getting that coverage, and you're constantly communicating with the public and making sure that they're updated on anything that's happening. It's just, there's so many moving parts, and so it's definitely different than I expected.
I'm going to take away from this internship the importance of local government, its functions, how much it gets done, and the general importance of making opportunities available to young people who do want to explore their interests in politics. Get involved. It's going to pay off. You're going to love it. And most of all, you'll be educating yourself on the society that you live in, which is the most powerful tool that you can have at your side.
Pretty awesome. I would like each of them just to share one main takeaway from the summer. Everybody can see the video and we kind of understand you were involved in communications. What was one highlight, or what will be one takeaway after the end of this experience? Rebecca?
I think one highlight is being able to meet everybody who works here and really understand the importance of everyone's job and how many people and how many different jobs go into making sure the city is running properly.
Wonderful. Sivey?
I have to agree with Rebecca in that, seeing everybody so actively working and then being able to be a part of that process and, actually serving was amazing. It's hands-on.
It is very hands-on. So Rebecca Bushmeyer, Sivey Chinthamaneni, in recognition and sincere appreciation of your outstanding contributions and dedicated service as a summer intern for the city of Peachtree City, your hard work, enthusiasm, and commitment significantly impacted our team and the community we serve. Thank you so very much. Public comment.
We have no public comments at this time.
Agenda changes, council?
None?
None. Minutes, July 13th, 2023, regular meeting minutes. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion we accept the July 13th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Quarterly reports. Council, any questions or comments?
What going on?
There is
Yes,
a lot going on.
A lot of good reports.
Amazing. I am going to jump to page 24. Oh man, no, I can't find my page numbers. And while I do that, I want to tell our staff that this is really meaningful. If we don't have feedback, it isn't because we didn't read them or we don't appreciate them. It's because they're self-explanatory and they're loaded with information and they're awesome and we really appreciate it. I'm going to try and find page 24 in our council packet. There was
4 of 71. It's this one here?
Yes, it's the one with the,
Yeah, thank you. Rather than scroll, I noticed in our executive services, we surpassed the milestone of 12,000 followers on our Facebook page. On Facebook, our reach soared from 187,000 in quarter one to 810,000 in quarter two. Comparing year over year, our Facebook reach exhibited tremendous growth, escalating from 89,000 to 810,000.
Tenfold.
That is absolutely amazing. And the success extends to Instagram and Twitter as well. I just want to say thank you. We are getting the word out and we're succeeding thanks to all of you. Maybe thanks to Sivy and Rebecca this summer to drive our own message, and that's really important. Thanks very much.
I'll take that back.
Consent agenda. A, fiscal year 23 budget amendment, tree removal. Can I get a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on the consent agenda. Fiscal year budget amendment, tree removal for approval.
a second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Old agenda item 62306, Flat Creek Boardwalk repair and tree removal. Jonathan Miller.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. To, I guess, continue the discussion on tree removal. Staff is bringing back the Flat Creek Boardwalk repair and tree removal. So to kind of recap what we went over, I guess what Justin went over in the June 15th council meeting. Earlier this year, we had storms, high winds that came through, caused a lot of trees or some damage on the south side. The boardwalk was evaluated. Many tree hazards were identified as far as leaning, uprooted, growing into the structure. At that point, engineering and public works decided that it was unsafe for the public and we closed the south side. Those are kind of some of the pictures of the current conditions of the south side now. It is still closed and boarded off. And then in April, another storm caused tree damage on the north side of the boardwalk as well. And that is still as it is. And so we closed the north side off as well. To kind of recap what was originally brought in that council meeting. So staff brought a proposal to trim approximately 30 trees, remove 53 actual dangerous, uprooted, rotten trees on the boardwalk. Part of the proposal included removing fallen debris that was already out there 20 foot on either side of the boardwalk as well. There's a large maple that was going to be stood back up because the root ball is way too big to get out, but we were going to cut it as low as possible and stand that up. And during this process, there are portions of the entire boardwalk that would either need to be removed or stabilized during this whole removal process. So that was what we originally brought. During that council meeting, there were some questions or discussion, and through that discussion, this is kind of what we gathered. We wanted to know what the cost of the trees would be to drop everything and just leave it in the wetlands. There was a discussion about demoing the north side of the boardwalk, build a new lookout at Flat Creek, and demo the remaining south side. There was also discussion about demoing the north side of the boardwalk, build a new lookout on the south side that was only 100 foot from the path, and demo the remaining south side. So based on that discussion, staff was able to come up with 3 options. Let's see. So option A, and I also want to kind of note, in the previous, we brought a proposal that included $50,000 worth of unforeseen contingencies. We've removed those from all of the options. So really what you're seeing is the cost of what we know has to be done. There may still be unforeseen things that we get into, but this is specifically just what has to be done. So option A is the first option that was originally brought to council. That is to cut and remove trees on both the south side and the north side. That includes removing the fallen debris that's already there 20 foot out from the boardwalk, and repairing the north side damage with in-kind or existing material. So that would be the pressure-treated lumber that's out there. And then option B. So option B is to leave everything in the wetlands, to cut it and leave it. It doesn't include removing any of the debris, existing or what is cut, so everything would stay in the wetlands. And you know, through talking to the tree contractor, if basically whatever falls, it's going to eventually sink into itself, and it will be almost nearly impossible to remove. So, okay. Option C was the option to just build a new boardwalk at Flat Creek, which is about 503 feet out from the path. It removes about half of the boardwalk on the south side. So we would only cut trees to that point. You'd construct a new lookout at that point, demo the remaining of it, and then also demo the north side. That option came in as the second highest at $134,000. So that's kind of where it would be. The new location of the lookout would be there, and we identified the multi-use path to just kind of give reference that it cuts about half of that boardwalk out on the south side. And of course, the north side would be demoed. So, and then option D, that was to cut and remove trees 100 foot on the south side, which is very minimal because there's not many trees in that 100 foot. Construct a new lookout at that point with in-kind material. Demo the remaining south side and demo the north side of the boardwalk. So, so for just kind of quick reference, we put a cone out there and took a picture from the path. So that is where your new lookout would be if you went 100 foot down that boardwalk. And this one, I believe, was the second cheapest option. So the cheapest option would have been to just leave everything in the wetlands. In addition, Public Communications conducted a survey online regarding the boardwalk. There were almost 1,100 submissions, and those are kind of a couple of snippets from that survey, you know, asking if they supported the estimated expenditure of the $200,000 and in favor of repairing the boardwalk and restore it to its original condition. And that's all I got. So any questions or anything I need to kind of clarify?
Council? Questions?
Can you go back to the slide that showed the questions and answers? So
Oh, sorry.
that was the
Frank.
one, yeah. So the support to spend $200,000 was 76%
S-
was in favor
About
of it?
75%, almost.
75, okay.
Mhm.
And in favor of repairing, restoring to its original condition was about the
Almost.
same?
Almost 80, I believe. 79.
I can't see that far. Okay, I guess I can look this way, 79.
Yep, almost 80%.
And the cost of doing that was 200K, huh?
But remember, that was 51,000 of that was
Right.
contingency.
Contingency.
So that is now called option A, and it stands at 145,000.
So,
Question?
I want to break it down into smaller pieces. So cut down the trees. Should we take them out, or are we okay leaving them down?
I'm okay leaving them in, it's a swamp.
I'm in favor of leaving them there.
I'm in favor of leaving the
Really?
cut down
Can we,
trees there.
can we get an environmental take on that? I mean, what, other than looking like a tree graveyard, what are the environmental considerations? How
I mean-
long before they're covered up? I mean, are we
It-
really thinking of leaving 53 trees laying out there?
It will take a while for them to decompose, but, I mean, the argument could be made that it's part of the ecosystem and they would naturally fall and be left there, but, I mean, it really, I guess that's really a question for y'all to decide aesthetically, or, you know, how y'all want it to look when you walk out there.
Excuse me, ma'am.
When you take the trees down with the 200K, are you talking about leaving them there, or are you talking about the way you talked to us the first time where you were gonna be pulling them out?
Everything would be coming out, so part of the cost, I know the cost has kind of raised some questions, but the mobility access back there, the rigging, everything that this contractor is gonna have to do is gonna be very slow, methodical, and it's gonna take a lot of time to get everything out of there,
Right,
so
you just gotta have a lot of capability to pull those things
they'll have a
out.
lot of rigging,
You
because
can't
we're
bring
not,
You can't bring equipment in there.
No.
Right.
no, everything will be done from the boardwalk, so.
Could I, before we go any further, do we all agree that we need to keep the length of the boardwalk as it stands?
Well,
We've
no,
got
we're talking about cutting
numbers.
down the trees. Let's figure that one out first, because that's all gonna factor in.
Okay, go on.
So remove the trees or not, and we said, the three of us said we don't want the trees removed, and I know you said, oh, we're just gonna leave trees there. The trees that are being removed, in my humble opinion, are a small amount, percentage of the trees that are there. And this is called the nature walk. Well, in nature, when a tree falls,
Stays
it
there.
stays.
Yep.
There's nobody out there taking it out. So, can we,
Yeah,
are you
I
okay
hear
with that? Okay,
I
so-
hear you, I hear you.
okay,
I
so-
would have taken it from the different approach. If we're done talking about shortening the boardwalk, then we're down to a conversation about, all right, we're keeping the length of the boardwalk, which is what I think I'm hearing you telling me. The question is, haul them out or leave them sit and save $32,000.
You
Am I
know,
right?
I agree with you on that, Madam Mayor, but really, and what swayed me on this was our citizens spoke loudly and clearly that they want that back. Almost 80%, what is it, 75 to 80% of the citizens that answered this, of the 1,100, said, leave the darn thing there, fix it up,
The
and leave
boardwalk.
it for them. That's what I got
Yeah.
as far, and that really was substantial in my decision to say, leave the trees, let them fall, don't clean the brush up, don't clean the limbs up after you do your work. Just leave it there, let it be nature as it is. If a hurricane came through there and knocked it all down, let it be that way. So certainly, I think you'll have no problem with me in keeping the boardwalk at the full length. And
Just doing the repair
and
option.
just do, yeah, this would be, I guess, option B, and repair where needed, leave the trees, leave the brush, leave everything there, don't take it away. That's what, kind of where I stand. I don't know if
Thank
that's
you. Mr.
echoing
Dis-
all of what you say.
Thank you. Mr. DeStadio?
Well, after what we've been talking about, I mean, I've been through hurricanes where the trees have been down, and they look terrible. I think if there's a way we can take out some of those trees without getting into the heavy cost of that. In other words, the trees that have fallen down that are gonna be right there by the edge, You know, if it doesn't take that much more to have the guy pick up the tree and haul it out, then I wouldn't be,
It's 32,000.
32,000.
that's to take all of them out.
I imagine once they gear up,
Yeah, so I think the key would be, as Jonathan was saying, is the mobilization of the contractor getting out there and the rigging that would have to. So all that work would have to be done, even if we're only going to take out a handful of the trees. So that cost may come down a little bit, but I don't know that it'll come down substantially because they are literally driving out on the boardwalk with small equipment and then going out into the wetlands to cut the trees and then bring them close to chop them up into smaller pieces and then bring them back out. So there's still a great deal of effort. Whether we do all the trees or part of the trees, there's still going to be a cost associated.
Well, I agree that that the citizens want it cleaned up, and I think that's the right thing to do, keeping it at the right length. It's just that it doesn't have to look like a bunch of trash in the process.
I mean, it's nature.
It is nature, but we clean up after hurricanes, even in nature
It
areas.
hasn't been a hurricane that went through there and did that.
We clean up when there are down trees, even in
No,
a nature
no,
area.
do we clean up trees in the green space?
No, we don't. I mean,
Okay, all right.
we consider the green belts natural. Now, if they're large enough, we have gone in to
They
to
pose a danger or
take them, well, we take them down all the time, but we don't remove everything from the green belt. However, I mean, last year, we did spend $150,000, I believe, to clean Parkway's green belt up. So, I mean, it kind of, and that was just to clean the stretch from, I believe, like Interlochen North, around that, or Flat Creek North.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of a hard question to answer. It depends if we have the money and we want to,
But I mean, if we have like a green, I'm gonna use the bike path behind Wendy's. Tree falls down out there, we have a lot of land there.
Right.
We're not gonna go out there and pick it up.
That's one tree.
Right.
I've lived through Hurricane Hugo as a base engineer, and we had to pick up lots of trees. We didn't pick up every single tree. We picked up the trees that were just obviously a nuisance, not just the ones in the street, but the ones in the parks and places like that. We didn't go into a swampy area and pick them up, but we picked up the ones that were obviously going to make the base look terrible. You want the city to look terrible even in the swamp area out there?
I mean, it's a nature area. So
Yeah.
if we wanna make a nature area look like nature, you don't go and clean up the trees. The trees drop, that's what happens since the beginning of time.
We're talking about $32,000, right, Bob?
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's the difference. The other thing is too, is just, I want to put in everybody's the back of their mind, I hear the conversation going back and forth, but if the trees are felled and the trees are left there and we don't like the way that it looks after that work has been done, going back out there is not going to be an option. So because once the trees settle into that mud, we're not pulling
And
them
then,
out.
I mean, the next time a storm comes through, the trees could fall again. Are we gonna go out there and pick those trees up and move them again, or?
No.
I mean, yeah, let them
No.
fall.
I think 53 trees laying there is gonna be,
There was probably 150 trees before the storm came through laying. I mean, if you drive anywhere on our cart paths, and look at our green belt, there's trees that are dropped all over.
And there's roughly 1,000 feet, Jonathan, is that right? The length of the boardwalks, roughly 1,000?
Yeah, on the south side.
And we're having 50 trees taken down?
I think the 53.
53, I think?
Yeah, 53 total. That includes north side and south side.
So it's north
There
and
are
south
some on
side,
this-
so that,
yeah.
the number of trees per so many feet of board is
Yeah.
not gonna be, like, they're all gonna be piled up like toothpicks along the boardwalk. They'll be here, some will be there. There might be 4 or 5 in one area
Right.
and then nothing in the other areas. So I'm still in favor of having it, let nature take care of the green space, just like we do in the rest of the city.
I believe it's about 18 on the north side, right?
18, I believe, on the north side.
18 on the
and
north side, and
remains
then
on
you
the
subtract
south
that from
side.
So about
53.
30-some in the
Yeah.
other side.
The
so-
north side, I believe, is about 200 feet, and you've got about 1,000 feet on the south side, so
So-
1,200 foot total.
all right,
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve old agenda item 06-2306, Flat Creek Boardwalk Repair and Tree Removal on option B for a total of $113,675.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any final discussion?
Just that I think Phil Prebor's cheap. I'll go with,
Be that as it
Well, I
may.
guess I'd fall in that too.
you've always been cheap.
Oh.
All right.
All in
agree.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks very much, Jonathan.
Nice job on that, Bob, putting all the detail together. That was very helpful in
Yeah,
making
I have to
my
thank
decision.
staff. They did all the work.
Okay.
They're an amazing group of people.
Nicely
so.
done.
Yeah. Old agenda item 72305, resolution to adopt fiscal year 2024 operating budget and CIP.
Yes, good evening. There's no presentation this evening, Mayor. Nothing has changed since the last budget meetings that we've had, the workshops. So at this point, this is a request to approve the resolution to adopt the fiscal '24 operating budget and CIP.
Council, any discussion? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion, Madam Mayor, that we accept and approve item number 072305, a resolution to adopt FY 2024 operating budget and CIP.
I'll second it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. New agenda item 82301, Step 2 Annexation Application Acceptance for 52 acres on Stagecoach Road and Spear Road. Robin Caillou.
I don't think you, I do not have a presentation for this item because this is a procedural step. This is what, we need an official action to basically start the shot clock that's labeled in or listed in the state law. It's a 60-day shot clock, and all of the minimum and maximum date times are measured from the official action of accepting the application. So your accepting the application in no way implies acceptance or denial of the actual request. This is just to start the review.
This is within 60 days of the Step 1 that we approved previously?
No, this is, so once you start tonight, all of the timelines of me notifying this county and them having 30 days to respond and object, and all of those steps that are listed in the state law start from an official action of accepting the application.
Thank you. Council, questions?
I have several questions, but the developer isn't here, or is he here?
Well, he
This-
is, but this is a procedural, and staff is, we're not, actually, our city ordinance doesn't allow staff to even review the request until it's been accepted by you, so staff hasn't prepared to.
Well, Bob, here we go. Who do we ask our questions to?
Well, I guess it determines on what the nature of your questions are. At this point, like Robin was saying, we haven't had an opportunity, we won't have an opportunity to look at any of the details of this until council makes a decision whether or not they want to accept the application process.
So, can I get a motion?
I have a question. You mean to tell me that the 2 days of work that I went through all of this and researching it is now I can't ask questions on it?
Of course you can ask questions,
Okay.
but we don't have it. Staff, it's
Yeah,
not
with
fair.
I'm not putting Robin on the spot because she said that she was not prepared to do that, but there seems to be some anomalies in this proposal that don't match, like the surveys
Mr.
don't
Holland,
match.
we will, if we accept this tonight, which is the go button, tonight is the go button, and then we review all those questions, all that research that you did is going to be very valuable, it's gonna come in handy, and those questions are valid questions, and we need to review them all.
So maybe I just don't understand the process. Maybe that would be a little bit
It's a little bit
educational.
confusing, yeah.
Yeah, a little
So
bit
we
more
have step one
educational
and
on
step
that
two.
for me, being the new guy here to go through that. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Mayor,
but would you
Mayor, if
wanna
I
do
can
that?
say, so in consult with legal, you're free to ask questions. Just understand that staff has not had any opportunity to
Correct.
digest any of this information because it's pending any approval or denial of the application.
And I'm not trying to put staff on the spot, certainly, for the questions, because it's really for the developer. And that's really, the questions would be going to the
Can I just ask
developer.
my questions of the developer, or just
No.
make a statement?
No, we're not here to do that tonight. We're here to decide whether we want to start asking questions. If we accept Step 2 annexation application, then that means we can get all your questions to the city manager and start getting you guys the answers that you want.
Okay.
So
Can I just make a comment?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think it's a little unusual that we would have the land use plan that would talking about density, and we would have, well, the land use plan, I think we should be looking at having the ER kind of density, which is, not that far away from where we're going. And yet we're looking at putting in non-ER kinds of housing and stuff put there. So I would be concerned when we get to the other steps, why we're not looking at the
Estate.
density for ER kind of
Right.
I'm concerned that we don't have a road going from connecting to Spear Road. I would be concerned for any of the density problems. If there was an accident on any of these roads, the kids can't get out because you don't have a road going to Spear Road.
These are very valid concerns and conversations that we will absolutely have in case we pass this step 2
I
annexation.
understand, I'm not asking questions, I'm just giving you a heads up of what's to come.
Thank you.
Well,
And I am concerned about one other thing. When we looked at what was going on off of McDuff Parkway, and we had that one sliver of land that Robin remembers well, that we were told was not gonna be annexed in, and yet, I can't remember the name of the person or the.
Mr. DeStadio, I'm going to ask that you direct your
I'm sorry.
comments to the mayor.
There was a piece of property that was a triangular piece of property, and I wanna say it was Ann's Cookies or something like that, that was told we weren't gonna annex that in, and yet the developer went ahead and came up and annexed that piece of property in. So I'm concerned about when you look at this piece of property, there's obviously a piece of road that goes between 3 and 4 development that doesn't go anywhere, but it goes into a piece of property that could easily be annexed in. That's quite a bit of land. It's like 77 acres.
77 acres.
Mr. DeStadio, we will have all of those conversations. That is very well-researched and valid concerns, and we will have all of those conversations should we decide to accept step 2. That way staff can answer our questions.
I understand. I just
Well-
gave them a heads up.
And I still haven't gotten an answer for the first question I made, which is, can you explain the steps so that I understand them much more clearly? I don't know if that's something that Ted or Bob or...
I'll try to take a stab at it.
Okay,
But
please do.
generally speaking, step 1 decides whether they can submit an application or not, or whether
Haven't they
council's.
already done that?
They have done that. I'm
Okay.
just kind of walking you through the
Okay.
process. Step 1 is, does council even want to consider it or not? Council votes yes, then at that point in time, they submit a formal application for annexation. Excuse me. Under state law, there's an annexation arbitration process. So if in fact there's an issue that the county raises, it can have to do with infrastructure, it can have to do with incompatible zonings and so forth. There has to be a defining moment of when the city accepted that application. That's what's on the table tonight. Once, if council does accept it, at that point in time, as Robin referenced, there's a time period that runs. We have so many days to notify the county that an application has been submitted. The county then has so many days to respond and state whether they're going to object to the annexation or not. If they don't object, then the annexation goes through the process, which is staff review, planning commission review and recommendation, and then to a public hearing for the council for consideration of the application itself, along with the zoning applicable to the property.
And that's done in a 60-day period?
Well, typically, yes, but if the county objects, then it's a longer period, because then we have to go through the process of seeing if the city and county can work out conditions. If they can't, then an arbitration review panel is assembled under that law, and we go through that process to determine what, if any, conditions should be imposed if council decides ultimately to annex the property. So tonight is not a public hearing, it's also not step 1, it's that middle point of defining the date when the city accepted the application.
So you're kind of in limbo between step 1 and the final acceptance of all the data of which I did all this work on to object, but at the same time, you've got to let them go. You got to approve this step 1 so they can get the data for step 2. Is that a summation of what you just said?
In so many words, yes. In other words, now, again, I'm just being candid with everybody here, you don't have to do anything. This is up council's accepting and voting to accept the application tonight. That's all that is. But that allows the rest of the process to occur, the application, the public hearings, and so forth.
I seem to remember this is one of the, we went all the way through the arbitration process for the property over behind Governor's Square.
Actually, no, we didn't. The county objected, but DCA is in charge of maintaining and appointing the arbitration panel members. And they did not have enough arbitration panel members.
But we went through a lot of that process up to the arbitration, I guess.
Well, we went through the county objecting. There was never an arbitration because DCA didn't have enough panel members to fill a panel. So the city and county then had discussions and agreed upon certain conditions that would be imposed on the annexation. Because that's another legal limbo that I'm actually arguing on behalf of the city of Noonan right now. Because in that instance, in one instance, there was never an arbitration panel. We had a panel put together. One panel member quit about 72 hours before the hearing was supposed to take place. So what's the net effect of that? DCA is having a hard time filling these panels. Nobody is 100% certain what the legal impact of that is. If you're a city, you say, well, DCA didn't do its job. That's for the county to argue with DCA. The county, of course, says, well, we objected and we're entitled to a full and fair process. And I'm telling you too much at this point, so I'll
No, I think,
Good explanation,
Yeah, I
though. It
think
gave
your
me a
cons-
better feeling of understanding the process.
I think your concerns are valid, and your points are very well taken. And if this were to pass, then we get to take a look at all those things.
That's assuming it passes.
So the
Can I get
step-
a motion?
The step 2 process is like 2.5.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we reject this two-step annexation number 082301, two-step application acceptance for 52 acres on Stagecoach Road and Spear Road.
Seeing no second, the motion dies on the vine. Can I have a different motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept new agenda item 082301, step 2, annexation application acceptance for 52 acres on Stagecoach Road and Spear Road.
I'll second. I have a motion and a second to approve step 2
Can we
annexation.
have a little bit more discussion?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, the point is, this gives them an opportunity to do something, if you want estate residential, whenever that comes down the line, whatever you decide you might like. If we don't, the county can just do whatever, houses are still gonna go there, I think.
I mean, I'm more inclined to see industrial or resident,
Commercial.
something commercial than
That's,
residential.
so commercial, you need traffic for commercial to work. That probably wouldn't be a good place for commercial.
Could be a hidden away industrial area,
Uh,
because there's a lot of land there to the other side.
Based upon what we've been talking about the last couple of days.
Yeah, again, that's something that can be brought forward and talked about again. I mean,
After step 2?
After step 2.
Let's
We won't
have
even
that
get a chance to
conversation.
Talk about it, and really probably getting too deep in the weeds as it is now, because they haven't even had an opportunity. So anyways, there's a motion and second on the table.
Let's have those conversations. Let's have those conversations.
Well, I'd like to have those conversations, so I wouldn't like to see it die totally, but I'm not in favor of what we got here, so.
All right, we can have those conversations. I have a motion and a second to accept step 2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-1. Thank you. New agenda item 82302, library elevator maintenance. Dave
Do we
Borkowski.
wanna get moving on? We gotta-
Yeah.
Good evening, Dave Borkowski, city engineer. What we're recommending tonight is that council accept a proposal from Cone Elevator Company for the modernization of the current elevator in the City Hall Library in the total amount of $215,950. That particular elevator is fairly old. The average life of an elevator is about 25 years, and this one is 27. So we are at the point where several electronic components and other things are no longer manufactured. So if we have an issue, then we won't be able to use the elevator. So we had requested a proposal from Cone. They're our current elevator maintenance contractor. Requested a quote from them. And this quote proposes to replace all the electronic and mechanical equipment for the elevator, the hydraulic lift system, the pump, the electronics, all that stuff. It also includes some aesthetic upgrades as well, including a new interior paneling and ceiling. So we've reviewed that proposal and find it acceptable. As far as budget goes, our library director procured a grant from the Georgia Public Library Service for $93,500. So that helps a great deal with the cost. The remaining amount, $122,450, is budgeted and available in the city's capital plan. So are there any questions on this?
Council?
No questions.
What would we be approving? The $122,450 expenditure or the total expenditure at $215,950?
I think we're approving.
It'd be the total, and then we would get reimbursed.
Oh, you get reimbursed, so it'd be still the total.
Correct,
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept 082302 library elevator maintenance
In the amount of?
in the amount of $215,950.
Thank you.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Public hearings, thank you, David. Public hearings, we have none. Council staff topics. First of all, Purple Heart Day ceremony and appreciation breakfast is coming up this Monday, August 7th. Mr. DeStadio?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hope everybody realizes that Peachtree City was designated as the Purple Heart City last year. We worked hard to get that, and now that we've celebrated Purple Heart Day every year, last year and this year. August 7th is Purple Heart Day, and we've gone ahead and set up not only the typical flag raising that we'll have at 9 o'clock on August 7th, which is Monday. We have several people here in Peachtree City and in Fayetteville. We have the commander of Post 105, if he's still here, Dave. Thank you for being here. And our commander in Post 50, and Clint are Post 50. They'll both be there along with many of the Purple Heart veterans or recipients at 9 o'clock on Monday the 7th. So we invite every veteran, not just the Purple Heart veterans, but any veteran that wants to attend the flag raising ceremony on Monday at 9 o'clock. And then the city, along with both the Legion members, both Post 50 and 150, are having a breakfast celebration in the Floyd Farr Room, and we invite you all to attend. So please recognize the Purple Heart veterans on Monday the 7th, and come down to the Floyd Farr Room and get to meet some of the people. So thank you very much, Mayor, for doing that for us.
Thank you. Next, under council staff topics, I'd like to hear from Chief Moon regarding Promise Place.
Pumps.
Promise
Promise.
Place.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens. I'm Janet Moon, your police chief, and it's always a good thing when I can come up here and talk about happy events that's coming out of the police department. On June 22nd, I received an email with a letter attached from the district attorney, Marie Broder, and she was challenging all law enforcement agencies in the Griffin Judicial District to solicit much-needed donations for our domestic violence shelter and resource center called Promise Place. If you didn't know, the Griffin Judicial District composes of 4 counties. It's Fayette, Spalding, Upson, and Pike. So I reached out to our community outreach coordinator, Sergeant Courtney Lumpkin, and to our school resource officer, Monica LaCory at Booth Middle. She serves as our representative on the Promise Place Board, and I asked them if we were up to the challenge. They immediately said yes. Well, once they said yes, I do what any good chief would do. I forwarded the email and the letter out to the entire staff, and then I got out of their way and let them go to work. So the challenge ran from July 1st to July 31st. Lieutenant Ken Rawls worked the social media magic to get the word out to the community, and the challenge, and to keep the timely reminders up to the community. So I get asked all the time, who is our funny person on social media, on Facebook and those sorts of things. If it's witty and you like it, it's usually Lieutenant Ken Rawls that has done that posting. Lieutenant Mark Brown has deep tentacles in the football community here, and we have a new coach at McIntosh High School for the football team. They coordinated, and the players got backpacks full of school supplies so they could donate. So then all the other officers and the staff got involved, and things really started to grow. What I really want to say is I express my gratitude to the citizens of Peachtree City. No matter what the need is at the time we pull out the call for help, you respond with generosity and giving to meet the need. Whether it's a natural disaster or somebody's hurt or whatever, you have always stood up and made sure our needs were met. There were times I could barely walk through the police department lobby. We had so many donations. So we made numerous trips to the central collection point at the DA's office over in Fayette County. I'm excited to announce that Peachtree City won the challenge due to the coordinated efforts of all of our community and our officers involved. So out of all the 4 counties and all the law enforcement jurisdictions, we knocked it out of the park. Andre was over there today, and there were almost 11 truckloads. We're talking moving truckloads of donations that were taken over to Promise Place. I would like to remind you, if you didn't get to participate and you still want to, Promise Place is funded also through the Fayette Thrift Shop. It's on Highway 85 across the Burger King. All the proceeds from the items they sell, they take the money they make and they donate it back to Promise Place. And also, we had some help from Home Depot, and I wanted to say thank you to them. Promise Place is in some dire need of repair. It's dilapidated, and they have stepped up, and they are going to do a lot of maintenance and repair, painting, and things that desperately need to be done to help them out. So we really appreciate our corporate partners for helping us in that. But I'm going to hush because our communications team has put together a video to highlight all the contributions that were taken over to Promise Place today that we would like to show you now. And once again, I truly appreciate this wonderful community that we live in. Thank you.
The Promise Place Challenge was something that the District Attorney's Office issued to all the law enforcement within the Griffin Judicial Circuit. Promise Place is our local domestic violence shelter that covers the circuit, and they had put out back in May an urgent needs list. We said, what better way to help our community and show that law enforcement, the DA's office, were all involved in stopping domestic violence and supporting the victims of domestic violence, and issued a challenge to support these needs.
When someone leaves a relationship with domestic violence, they leave with nothing. They have nothing but the clothes on their back and their kids, and they're just trying to live the best life that they can without violence in it. And Promise Place helps them do that. But they're a nonprofit organization, and so these women and these children, and they need supplies.
We're about to fill this entire Home Depot truck. And by the way, this Home Depot truck was donated by Fayetteville Home Depot. They sent 4 of their personnel to help us load it up. This whole thing is going to be filled. So there's hundreds of bags, boxes, diapers, anything and everything. We were using the 3rd floor of the courthouse, and there's a lot.
It almost makes you emotional that the community and these law enforcement agencies responded the way they did. I can't say thank you enough to the Peachtree City Police Department and the citizens of Peachtree City that donated.
They have probably brought at least 10 truckloads of stuff. And my understanding is they have another 2 truckloads on site today that they're going to be dropping off at Promise Place as well. These donations help children that are in Promise Place locations. They help the family members so they can reestablish themselves. So it's clothing, it's household items, it's diapers, it's food, anything. And then Promise Place also is the beneficiary of Fayette Thrift Store. So anything that's donated to the Fayette Thrift Store gets the proceeds. All proceeds goes to Promise Place.
I just want to say thank you to every law enforcement agency that participated. I want to say thank you to my chiefs and my sheriffs and to the community. I just want to say thank you because the impact that this will make, you might not see it or you might not feel it, but the impact is just extraordinary and will help these women and these children move forward in a life without violence. And that's all something that we can hope to achieve.
Thank you. Next on the list, we have comments about Lake Peachtree.
Yes, good evening again. So Mayor, yesterday, early afternoon, we were alerted by one of our employees, I believe code enforcement officer, in reference to what was reported initially as a pollutant or a paint spill in the lagoon area of Lake Peachtree. We responded out there, our fire department responded out there with some containment, and when we were going through that process, we also alerted the county to come out and do some water testing and samples for us. Through that testing process, we found out that it was actually an algae plume. And during that process, this is a naturally reoccurring process in the lake, and it typically happens on hot, dry situations, and our lake is shallow, and there are some contributing factors that go along with that. However, the county has been doing some testing and determined it to be a type of algae that is an irritant if it's ingested. And so at this point, we have prohibited swimming or water activities in the lake. We don't know where those plumes, they move around, so it's not just in one area, but you could possibly swim in it or get, if you fell off of a paddleboard or something like that, you could probably possibly get into that. So we're going to continually monitor this and watch it and continue to test the waters, but at this point, the Lake Peachtree has been posted for no swimming, and we've put that on our city website and on social media, and we've been fielding calls from residents and others in reference to the lake and the conditions. We're being told that it just needs to run its course, and there's a period of time for this to actually run its course, so it's an inception, and there's a life expectancy, and then it dies or goes back to being dormant. So we're monitoring it as it goes through that process, but we do recommend that anybody that's out at the lake, please do not go in the water, please do not swim in the water, please do not bring your dogs in the water, your kids in the water, don't get the water in your mouth or ingest the water, because there is that potential for it to cause gastrointestinal issues amongst other things. And that's the report. Do you have any, I'm here for any questions that you might have.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Council, any council staff topics? All right. Do we have executive session?
We do not.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Before we adjourn, I just wanted to say, I forgot to tell you that the Purple Heart ceremony and the day is both in the AJC this year and also in the Fayette County newspaper. So thank you for everybody that helped out. Jasmine has done that and Andre has done that. So the city is getting recognition for being a Purple Heart city.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We stand adjourned.